In the hot summer, the scalding air almost burns people. I didn't squeeze into the bus on Zhou, and I was sweating from the heat. The phone rang, and Zhou went to the shade behind the bus stop to answer it. "Hi, I'm Zhou. Shijuan, I'm your father." An old and hoarse voice came from the other end of the phone, and Zhou face suddenly changed. "Sorry, I don't know you, you made a mistake." Zhou quickly hung up the phone, and it was Chen Jianwei, her biological father, who called. He raised his hand and rubbed his face, his heart pounding. The phone rang again, persevering. Zhou was very irritable, took out the phone and pulled out the battery. Zhou is 22 this year, a student of the acting department. A blood test report 4 years ago made her fall from the sky into the mud. After waiting for half an hour, the bus still didn't come, and Zhou was dizzy, so he had no choice but to take out the phone and put the battery back in. As soon as it was turned on, a string of numbers jumped on the screen. It was Wang Mei in the same dormitory, and when the clock was switched on during the week, the woman's voice came to my ears. "How was the interview result?" "That's it. He didn't make it to the interview and was rejected directly. Xiaomei invites you to dinner, where is it?" Zhou looked back at the distance, but there was still no sign of the bus, so he gave an address, waiting for the bus. "Xiaomei's boyfriend is driving the car, we'll pick you up." Wang Mei suddenly lowered her voice. "Damn it, she brought her boyfriend here to show off. Let's go and eat or not?" Zhou was full of gloom and it cleared up a little. "Okay. Stand there and don't move, half an hour will pass." "Okay." 20 minutes later, a grey Nissan stopped in front of it, honked its horn, and Zhou looked over. Xiaomei waved at Zhou from the window of the car, and said in a charming voice, "Baby, here." Zhou had goosebumps all over his body, and quickly ran over to open the car door. Wang Mei sat in the back seat, blinking her eyes. "Hey! Baby!" Zhou couldn't laugh or cry. "Stop making trouble." The air conditioner was turned on in the car, dispelling the stuffy heat. "I'm Xiaomei's boyfriend, Chen Wei." Zhou met Chen Wei's eyes from the rear-view mirror, and smiled. "Hello, Zhou, Xiaomei's friend." Chen Wei looked a bit older, in his 30s, average, neither tall nor handsome. Half an hour later, they stopped at a restaurant by the river. When getting out of the car, Zhou glanced at Chen Wei. Judging from the clothes he was wearing and the car he was driving, Fu also gave a discount. Can't be a liar. Xiaomei looked bluffing but was pure in nature. Chen Wei went to find a parking space. Xiaomei accompanied him. Zhou Guang and Wang Mei went first. "No interview." Zhou Guang sighed, and said with a wry smile, "I saw Dong Hui during the interview. Once she goes, who of us will have a chance?" "Dong Hui is a celebrity in their school." Wang Mei clicked her tongue. "That's true. What are you two whispering? Are you still behind my back? You and your boyfriend are in love, and we are ashamed to be light bulbs." Wang Mei said with a smile, "Isn't it? Mr. Chen?" "Don't, call me Chen Wei or Brother Chen." Wang Mei rolled her eyes and smiled meaningfully. "Brother Chen doesn't dare to call out." Chen Wei squinted his eyes and smiled, glanced at Zhou Guang, and quickly moved away. "Don't dare to say anything. You are Xiaomei's friends and my friends. If you need help in the future, just mention it. Don't be polite." Wang Mei turned her head and blinked at Zhou Guang. "Mr. Chen is in his 30s this year? Which company is the high school?" Wang Mei and Xiaomei are rivals, fighting openly and secretly in the dormitory. Before Chen Wei could speak, Guo Xiaomei took over the words. "Brother Chen is only 28, stop talking nonsense." "Really? Maybe I'm a little anxious." Chen Wei next to him turned green, and pushed away Guo Xiaomei who was hanging on his arm. He met Guo Xiaomei in a bar. She is a silly, big-breasted, fun-loving person, but she didn't expect to be so smart. Brother Chen, are you angry? Zhou Guang smoothed things over, they like to joke around, Mr. Chen doesn't mind. How could it be? Chen Wei glanced at Zhou Guang and smiled, it's just a joke. Xiao Mei took Chen Wei's hand, raised her chin and looked down at Wang Mei, she just likes to joke and hurt others, and her mouth is very wicked, so she hasn't found a boyfriend when she grows up. Wang Mei's face changed when she was poked into the wound, Zhou Guang quickly grabbed her, Wang Mei. If the quarrel continues, it will really turn against each other. No matter how much Guo Xiaomei hates it, she will still get along with her in the future. Xiaomei chose a high-end Western restaurant. She really risked her life to show off her wealth. When ordering, Zhou Guang just got the menu. Xiaomei ordered the dishes for both of them, I'm helping you. She smiled and glanced at the two people opposite, and said, this place is different from that kind of fast food Western restaurant, anyway, you have never eaten before. Zhou Guang returned the menu to the waiter, drank his saliva, and what did he want to do with his meal? Wang Mei's expression was not so good, and she threw the menu on the table angrily. Yet, we've never had steak. The steak in this restaurant is not delicious, and I have no appetite after eating 2 pieces on weekdays. The phone rang again, she glanced at the incoming call, lowered her head, gritted her teeth, stood up and went out. I said you made a typo. Are you a daughter like this? I'm your father, why did you make a mistake? You're not my daughter? I just got out of prison and I don't have any money with me. Hurry up and send me money. I'm not your daughter. Zhou Guang interrupted him, I don't have a father. My name is Zhou Guang. It has nothing to do with you. Please don't call me again. You witty-eyed wolf. Chen Jianwei got angry and cursed, I gave birth to you, do you have a conscience? I was born by my mother, what does it have to do with you? Zhou Guang lowered her head, she peeled off a piece of dry skin on her hand, and pursed her lips, oh, it still has something to do, you provided a sperm. You call again, and I'll call the police for harassment. Zhou Guang raised his head and looked into the distance, the sun slanted to the west, casting a golden afterglow on the city. Clutching the phone tightly, trembling slightly. 4 years ago, she never imagined that such a social scumbag would have something to do with her. At that time, her father was a wealthy businessman, Zhou Chuan, a gentle and elegant businessman. Chen Jianwei was imprisoned 3 years ago for theft and is now released. Blocking the number, Zhou Guang turned around and walked towards the restaurant. Suddenly there was a shout behind him. Zhou Guang looked back, his heart shuddered, and his whole body became cold. Time. Zhou Meng walked over with her chin lifted. She was wearing a blue knee-length skirt, revealing her fair collarbone and delicate eyebrows. Glancing at Zhou Guang, he chuckled, long time no see. Zhou Guang pursed his lips, then nodded, long time no see. Work here? Or eat? What's wrong with you? Zhou Guang pinched his fingers lightly, the feeling of being humiliated weighed heavily on his head. Can I chat with you if I have nothing to do? Zhou Meng squinted her eyes. She was wearing high heels, her hair was cut very short, and her pointed chin was very delicate. I met you just after returning to China. We have such a great fate. How can we not say hello when we meet? Zhou Guang looked at the delicate woman in front of him. 4 years ago, it was Zhou Guang who was in Zhou Meng's position. Now Zhou Meng, any accessory on his body can be used by Zhou Guang for a year. I still have friends over there. Zhou Guang looked at Zhou Meng, her nails sank into her flesh, and she still had a smile on her face. Let's go there first, we can talk about it later. Zhou Guang turned around and was about to leave. Stop! Behind Zhou Meng said, I'm engaged on the 8th of next month, you must come. Zhou Guang looked into her eyes. Zhou Meng pursed her lips and raised her eyebrows in a smile, but her eyes were filled with cold jealousy. After all, you have occupied my parents for 18 years, and let me stay in a quagmire like filthy family for 18 years. 18 years, what a great fate we have. I certainly hope that you can come and witness my happiness. Zhou Guang felt a pain in her chest. She looked at Zhou Meng, my boyfriend, witness your uncle. Bless you. Don't ask me who my fiancé is. Zhou Guang looked directly into her eyes, his expression sank. Meng Hao. Zhou Meng smiled happily, she raised her chin. He proposed to me. Meng Hao is very nice, gentle and handsome. You finally got your wish. It's been almost 3 years since she left the Zhou family, she has to face the reality, doesn't she? Zhou Guang adjusted the muscles on his face and smiled, but he still couldn't hold back and stabbed her. It's tough, isn't it? Congratulations. You. Zhou Meng's complexion suddenly changed, and then he returned to normal. You think too much about this, you must come for our engagement, so you can give up. Maybe I'm a little busy recently. Zhou Guang pinched his palm, shrugged and said with a smile, I'm rushing to the set, so I really can't go. Filming? What movie? Zhou Meng smiled and said, but you have to come for this engagement, and Meng Hao also hopes that you can come. After all, you have been playing together since you were young, and you have been in love for so many years. If you don't come, I think don't you dare. Chen, have you changed your surname now? In fact, Zhou Guang couldn't get any movies at all. She was not good at selling herself, and because of her childhood environment, she developed an arrogant personality. She will not cater to what the market needs, and she is unknown, who will tailor it for her. Zhou Guang lowered his head and bit his lip, suddenly realized that his behavior was admitting defeat, and quickly raised his head to look into Zhou Meng's eyes. Why don't I dare to go? I will contact you later. She raised her wrist and habitually looked at Zhou Meng. Watch, but embarrassed by the exposed electronic watch bought at 159, put it back. It's getting late, my friend is still waiting. See you. Zhou Meng waved his hand, stared at Zhou Guang's somewhat embarrassed back, and sneered with the corner of his mouth raised. There is no such thing as a free lunch in this world. She robbed her parents and enjoyed the love of her parents for 18 years. Such a person should be punished. Today's week is still too good. When Zhou Guang went back, several people had almost eaten. Where did you go? Xiaomei looked up and pouted, we've been waiting for you for a long time. Zhou Guang sat down, I met a friend and chatted for a while, sorry. It's nothing. Chen Wei said, excused Zhou Guang, actually, it doesn't delay anything, we haven't finished eating yet. Guo Xiaomei was a little unhappy, and gave Chen Wei a look. What's wrong? Zhou Guang took a sip of water, it's getting late, shall we go back? Okay. Wang Mei rose in response and was about to leave. It's still early, what are you going back for? Chen Wei's gaze flicked past Zhou Guang, before turning back to Guo Xiaomei, I asked some friends to sing together, why don't you bring your classmates there? It's so crowded. Is it suitable? Guo Xiaomei hated these two troublemakers to death, with a sweet smile on her face, Brother Chen, there's nothing inappropriate. That's my colleague over there. It's embarrassing for you to go there alone. Just when Zhou Guang was about to refuse, Wang Mei pulled her to stand up, go, then I will trouble Brother Chen. Zhou Guang was embarrassing to death. It was already 8 o'clock in the evening when we drove to the KTV. Chen Wei said that there were not many people there, and they were all men. They are poor students, and the grade of KTV is not low, which is definitely high consumption for them. So Wang Mei and Guo Xiaomei were very excited, and soon after they entered, they would not let go of my. Zhou Guang has no interest. She is in a bad mood today. Wang Mei and Guo Xiaomei sang hi, and clinked glasses with Zhou Guang, drink, beer is very low in alcohol, so you won't get drunk. Zhou Guang took a sip, frowning for a long time before swallowing the bitter liquid. Guo Xiaomei and Wang Mei sang, holding a microphone and shouting Xi's song. Guo Xiaomei's voice was sweet, and Wang Mei's voice was deep and hoarse, but they cooperated very well. Chen Wei kept staring at Zhou Guang. After a while, he poured Zhou Guang a glass of wine and toasted. Meeting for the first time. Zhou Guang was not good enough to refute his face, and touched him. It's an honor. Chen Wei drank the beer with a toast, then turned over the empty glass and shook it, smiling at Zhou Guang. Several of his colleagues turned their heads to look over. Zhou Guang was a little embarrassed, and finished drinking the wine in the glass with a smile. She didn't have a lot of alcohol, and after drinking a few glasses in succession, the picture in front of her eyes was a little shaken. I have a headache during the week, and I lean on the sofa in a daze. Time, are you asleep? Zhou Guang shook his head and did not speak. Putting one hand on her leg, Zhou stood up reflexively. Time. Wang Mei looked back. What's wrong? Zhou Guang's head hurt a little, but he woke up instantly. I'm going to the bathroom. Wang Mei, you accompany me. Okay. Wang Mei was singing, but when Zhou Guang called her, she dropped the microphone and went to hold Zhou Guang's arm, and the two went out together. I want to go back, come back. Zhou Guang leaned close to Wang Mei's ear. It's too late to get into the dormitory. If you can't get in, you can climb over the wall. There are no buses now. If Chen or something doesn't take us back, we have to take a taxi. How expensive is it to take a taxi? It's not worth it. Farewell. With resentment in his heart, Zhou Guang raised the corner of his mouth. I'll pay for the taxi. That kind of person suddenly reacted, and quickly stopped talking. In a few days, if you work a few more jobs, you'll be paid. Wang Mei was stunned for a moment, then her expression changed. Damn it! Did that do something to you? I don't think his eyes are right. The stinky rascal looks like I'm going to beat him to death. No, don't make a fuss. Whether you see through or not, you are still good friends, otherwise how will you face Guo Xiaomei in the future? It's all one bedroom. What's going on? Go back or not? Zhou Guang felt a little sick, and leaned on Wang Mei's shoulder. I'm really uncomfortable. Let you drink. Wang Mei resented, went to the bathroom. Zhou Guang felt much better. After washing with cold water, the alcohol passed away, and I regretted that I should not tell this matter. Although Wang Mei and Guo Xiaomei said the same last word, they are definitely rivals. Once Wang Mei gets hold of this, she will definitely attack Guo Xiaomei. Can you go to the private room to get the bag? I want to go to the door to blow some air. Okay. Wang Mei looked at Zhou Shijuan, hesitated to speak, and finally nodded and turned to leave. Hey, Wang Mei! Zhou Guang called her, and pursed his lips. Don't talk nonsense, Xiaomei loves face, you can take care of big things, right? I know, I'm not that stupid. Wang Mei gave her a white look. I'm going. Zhou Guang laughed. I like you the most. In fact, part of the reason for today's wine is because Zhou Guang wanted to drink it. I heard that wine can relieve sorrow, but she is still so uncomfortable when she is drunk. Zhou Guang rubbed her cheeks, and walked quickly towards the elevator entrance. She was afraid that if she was a little late, she would cry here. With the cool wind blowing on his cheeks, Zhou Guang went out of the KTV and walked outside. This area is full of entertainment places. There is a huge parking lot at the door, and tears welled up in Zhou Guang's eyes as he covered his face. In fact, no one persuaded her to drink tonight. If Zhou Guang didn't want to drink, no one could force her to drink. She felt very uncomfortable, especially in her heart. 4 years ago, Zhou Guang was 18 years old. That year Zhou Hao suffered from leukemia and needed a platelet transplant. Zhou Guang's test report showed that his blood types did not match at all. There was a big disturbance in the Zhou family, and the family was in crisis for a while. After more than a month of investigation, the results came out. The wrong child was held in the arms back then. Zhou Guang was not their child at all. Zhou Meng, the biological daughter of the Zhou family, lived a miserable life in the slums. The Zhou family was furious, and they couldn't believe that such a thing would happen to their family. After taking Zhou Meng back, Zhou Guang's fate became a problem. After all, they have feelings after being raised for 18 years. Although they are angry in their hearts, they grew up under their noses anyway, so Zhou Guang made Zhou Guang recognize them as godparents and continue to raise them in Zhou's family. A lot of things happened later. The dirty things that her biological parents did back then were leaked out. It turned out that the Chen family had intentionally swapped out the two children in order to let their children live a wealthy life. When she came out of Zhou's house that year, she had nothing, and her family, love and friendship were all reduced to ashes. She fell into the mud, and she was no longer a daughter. She has a father who was imprisoned for obscenity, and a mother who is in poor health and coughs all day long. She didn't want to change her surname to Chen. That man was too disgusting. Calling him dad would make her sick, so she could only continue to use her previous name, Zhou Guang. Hey, the chick looks good, isn't she? How about playing with my brother? When Zhou Guang came back to his senses, 5 men dressed as gangsters surrounded him. Zhou Guang was scared in his heart, but pretended to be calm on the surface, swallowed his throat, and frowned, "Get out of the way." "Yo? Who are you talking about? Who are you telling to get out of the way?" The leading man had dyed yellow hair and silver studs on his clothes. "Aren't you courageous? It's delicious." He spoke with an obscene smell, staring at Zhou Guang's chest and thighs. He didn't look like a rich man in his clothes. He was probably a student from the nearby art school. "Little girl, play with brother, there is plenty of money." Zhou Guang backed away in a hurry, the hairs on the places he touched would stand up, it was so disgusting. She couldn't stop looking, and suddenly saw a black off-road vehicle approaching, the lights were not very bright. She didn't see the car model clearly, she turned her head, raised her hand and waved over there, "Honey, I'm here." With his heart beating like a drum, Zhou Guang pursed his lips, pretending to be calm. 5 tall and burly men, how could she escape? Even if Wang Mei came here, she would not be able to take advantage of it. Zhou Guang rolled his eyes, God bless, that car must cooperate. The reason for Zhou Guang's gamble is that she looked around just now, and the only parking space here is here. "Let me go." Zhou Guang raised his chin, pushed away the person in front of him, and said arrogantly, "My husband has come to pick me up, do you know who he is? You better be smart, otherwise you won't be able to eat and walk around." The car stopped suddenly, and the tires rubbed against the ground making a sound, which was very clear in the silent night. Zhou Guang's heart almost stopped with fright, she was congested. The gangsters were confused for a while, it was a Porsche Cayenne, and they glanced at each other. "Do you dare to offend?" Zhou Guang touched the pocket of his shorts with his fingers and pressed 110. "It was agreed to pick me up at the Song Room on Zhoushan Road, why are you here now?" The whole car was pitch black, and Zhou Guang couldn't tell whether it was a human or a ghost inside. The gangsters behind her were still staring at each other, swallowing their throats, pretending to be in place. The car door opened suddenly, and Zhou Guang took half a step back in fright. Black leather shoes stepped on the ground, and a pair of straight long legs in black trousers came into view. Zhou Guang immediately straightened his body, his head was spinning 1,000 times, "Who is this?" The man got out of the car, tall, wearing a pure black shirt and trousers, with an intimidating aura. His facial features are cold and hard with sharp edges and corners, he looks handsome, his dark eyes glare gloomily, cold and gloomy, not pleasing to the eye at all, only scary. On the hot day of the week, he shivered, and he clenched his fingers and took a deep breath. Under the gaze of the man, the smile almost turned into tears. Could this be the boss of the underworld? Zhou Guang was thinking wildly. Moving over step by step, he shook his hand, "Hi. HTML error body font family to home of Verdana Arial sans serif, margin 0 auto, with 35 span display none anirora occurred. Sorry thepiji wara lookin for is currently unavailable. Please try again ladder.var underscore hasync equals underscore hasync dot push, histats dot start, 1,4561773,4,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0, underscore hasync dot push, histats dot face I, 1, underscore hasync dot push, histats dot track underscore hits, function, vars equals document dot createlment, script, s dot type equals text slash javascript s dot async equals 0 s dot src equals slash s10 dot histats dot com slash js15 underscore s dot js comma document dot get elements batag name head 0 document dot get elements batag name body 0 dot append child s. The room was very quiet. A woman in a cheongsam was lying on a chair with her legs crossed, and the assistant was blowing on her with a small electric fan. They all looked like ghosts, and there was a bang in Zhou Guang's head. After a while, she pursed her lips and said, "Naked replacement. Naked replacement, Pandan has a scene." The director stood up and looked at Zhou Shijuan up and down. The height is a bit high, but it doesn't matter if we only shoot the upper body. There was a sound in Zhou Guang's head, and after a while, he turned to look at the assistant director. "Sorry, I don't know such a role, and I don't plan to be a naked substitute at the moment." Not out of anger, at this moment she just wanted to turn around and leave. "I'm very sorry." As Zhou Guang said, he was about to retreat. "Who? Someone from there?" The director immediately went into a rage when he saw the situation, and threw the script in his hand at the assistant director. "I asked you to find a naked substitute, who the did you find?" When Zhou Guang went out, the heat was blowing in his face. The clothes on her body were soaked. She gritted her teeth, and looked up to the outside. There are so many extras in the yard, everyone is waiting for a chance to climb up. With so many people graduating from the film academy in a year, how many people can become popular in the entertainment industry? Some people will never be able to play the leading role in their entire lives, and some people will not be able to stand out even if they have been playing tricks on the set for a lifetime. In this industry, if you get ahead, you will be a master, and the money comes very quickly. If you can't survive, you can't even earn as much as moving bricks on the construction site, and you can't live like a dog, without any dignity. Xiaohu, who are you looking for? Do you want to do it? If you don't want to do it, get out now. Everyone is working hard for their dreams, and she is the same, for money, for life, for dreams. Wang Mei raised her head and looked over when she heard the scolding, and was shocked when she saw Zhou Guang walking out in a daze. "Hey? Time? What's going on? Why did you come out? They're going to be naked." Zhou Guang returned to normal, buried all his emotions deeply, shrugged and smiled. "I can't do that." "It's okay, no problem." Wang Mei put her arms around her shoulders. "Let's just be a little extra." It seems to have offended the assistant director. The weather is hot, and everyone has a hot temper and curses. I've got Senior Hu involved. It's a big deal not to come to this crew in the future. Wang Mei comforted her. "Let's just pretend that we're here today for a trip, to see the excitement, and treat you to crayfish tonight. My dad just paid for living expenses a few days ago, and I have money." Zhou Guang laughed, and after a while, Hu Lin came out. "Hey, I'm sorry." Scratching his head, "I didn't make it clear to you before, the assistant director said he wanted a double, I don't know." "It's okay, no problem." Then, Hu Lin was a little embarrassed, paused for a while, scratched his head, not knowing whether he was hot or embarrassed. His face flushed red. "Then what? There are a lot of female extras in the crew now." "Okay, I see, thank you." Zhou Guang spoke before Wang Mei spoke, and nodded repeatedly. "It's okay, you go and do your work, we happen to be here for a stroll." Hu Lin raised his head and glanced at Wang Mei, hesitant to speak. Speak and fart. Wang Mei rolled her eyes. Isn't it just a trick? We just go to another crew, it's a big deal. Pulling Zhou Guang, she turned around and left. We're leaving, you can go. Work permit. Hu Lin gritted his teeth and said, this cannot be taken away. Wang Mei turned her head and stared at him, snorted and pulled the work card off her neck before throwing it over. Pulling Zhou Guang, he ran out. It was half dead hot outside, and scattered tourists wore sun hats and wandered listlessly in the scalding air. Zhou Guang grabbed the runaway Wang Mei and asked, why are you so angry? Infuriating. What's wrong with that? Zhou Guang smiled, pulled her to stop in front of a cold drink shop, and ordered 2 bottles of mineral water. The drinks in the scenic area are expensive. A bottle of Master Kong costs 3.5 yuan, which is really eating people. Zhou Guang took out the money and handed Wang Mei a bottle. It's out of love for people to help us, and it's their duty if they don't help us. Why are you angry? Wang Mei was so angry that Zhou Guang didn't understand at all. Hu Lin has been flirting with her all the time. Others say that he is after her, and Wang Mei also thinks that he likes her. As a result of today's trouble, Wang Mei couldn't hold back her face. After all, she was just being self-indulgent. I am not angry. Wang Mei drank 2 sips of water. Zhou Guang is also very irritable now. I really don't have much money on me, and I haven't been able to receive a single advertisement recently, and I don't have much money in a month. Gotta figure it out. There's a filming crew over there, go over to see if anyone is needed, you can't make a trip in vain. Zhou Guang finished drinking a bottle of water and ran to the next crew. There have been a lot of filming here recently, try your luck. I do not want to go. Wang Mei sat down on the bluestone slab by the roadside. I want to go back to sleep. Zhou Guang turned to look at her, really not going? You can go if you want, I'm not short of money now. Just as Zhou Guang was about to speak, the phone rang and he answered, hello. Time, your parents are making trouble at the school gate. Zhou Guang was confused, who are you talking about? That's your parents, right? There are a lot of people gathered at the school gate to watch the fun. It's hard to hear them calling you ungrateful or something at the school gate. I just came back from outside and happened to meet at the school gate. Zhou Guang pinched the phone tightly with her fingers, closed her eyes and gritted her teeth. Her fingers trembled a little, and it took a long time before she said, I don't have parents. Don't worry about it. What should you do? Zhou Guang really hoped that the man would die in prison and never come out. It's disgusting. They're all liars, scammers. Do you want to call the police for you? The school will deal with it, and it's none of my business. Zhou Guang didn't have the slightest relationship with those 2 people, so she can say whatever others like, she has no regrets in her heart. Hang up the phone, it's a hot day, and the week is getting colder. She was a little annoyed, stood there for a while, then turned and left. He bumped into someone hidden. Zhou Guang was so angry that before he could speak, the other party said, are you looking for death? You walk without looking at the road, you are blind. I'm just blind. Zhou Guang was so angry that he couldn't understand it. He raised his head and bumped into a familiar face without warning. Hey! Zhou Guang! Wang An made a fuss, and Zhou Guang froze in place for a while, not knowing whether to clean up the anger on his face, or to continue to maintain a furious posture, in a dilemma. Are you really Zhou Guang? Now that we've met each other, what's the point of shortening Zhou's time? You still know the second Zhou Guang. Zhou Guang met Wang An's eyes and cheered up from the bottom of his heart, long time no see. In the hot air, a drop of sweat fell from Zhou Guang's forehead and landed on her thick eyelashes. The 2 were silent at the same time. After a while, Wang An asked, why are you here? Enjoy the beautiful scenery. The smile on Zhou Guang's face has returned to normal. When did you return to China? Let's find a place to talk. Wang An tilted his head, it's so hot. Okay. When Zhou Guang turned his head, Wang Mei had already stood up, her eyes were full of surprise, and she quickly looked at Zhou Guang. Zhou Guang introduced, my friend and I are here, Wang Mei. 10 minutes later, the three sat in Starbucks. I only heard about your family after I came back, and I couldn't find your contact information after asking around. I didn't expect to meet you here today. How are you doing now? Study or work? Junior, graduate next year. Zhou Guang smiled and shook his head, forget about the past, it's crazy to catch up with Korean dramas. Things didn't happen to me, I thought it was far away. When it happened to her, she felt sad. Wang An looked at Zhou Guang. She had grown up, her facial features had opened up, and she was more beautiful than 5 years ago. The clothes he was wearing were not even brand name, there was no brand or style at all. In the past, Zhou Guang was very particular about food and clothing. She never drank instant coffee and wore cheap t-shirts like she is here now. Her life should be difficult now. What major do you study? Did you study for another year because your grades in school were so poor that you couldn't get into college? Why are you only in your 3rd year? Guess what major I'm studying? Zhou Guang raised his eyebrows. Wang An used to hurt her like this, do you want to introduce me to a job? Mr. Wang. Do you need it? Wang An leaned on the seat, folded his arms and looked at Zhou Guang, smiling a little ruffian. Unnecessary. Zhou Guang finished the coffee in front of her, she really didn't need Wang An's work. Wang An was silent for a while, and then he said seriously, if you need help, don't be polite to me. I am your brother, and I will always be your brother. Thank you. Zhou Guang looked into Wang An's eyes, I take this seriously. I'm not joking. Zhou Guang wanted to say something, looked up into Wang An's eyes and smiled again, forget it, Uncle Zhou and Aunt Zhou, how are they doing now? Wang An looked into her eyes, time, you have nothing to do with them now. Zhou Guang felt a pain in her heart, she is not a hypocritical person. But after all, they are the parents who have raised him for 18 years. It would be a lie to say that he has no feelings at all. She loves her parents, and they dote on her. But in the end Zhou Guang is not their biological daughter, Zhou Meng will go back, Zhou Guang will have to leave. People's hearts are made of flesh, she really can't turn her heart into stone. Do you think I'm down and out now? Zhou Guang squinted his eyes and smiled, that's right, it doesn't matter. Wang An also insulted her back then, but Wang An's nerves are as thick as a telephone pole, and he would never think that he did something wrong, stood up, thank you for the coffee, I have time to contact, there are classes in the afternoon, I will go back first. Week time. Wang An's face became very ugly in an instant, and he stood up and grabbed Zhou Guang's arm. When it touches the soft skin, it releases quickly as if being scalded by something. Zhou Guang had turned to look him in the eyes. Wang An's face was a little hot, and he confronted Zhou Guang with all his courage, and the air became heavy. He took a deep breath and pursed his lower lips, what's your phone number? Which school do you go to? Wang An laughed, and put his finger on Zhou Guang's shoulder pretending to be relaxed, Zhou Guang, you are my favorite good buddy, it has nothing to do with family circumstances. Zhou Guang's phone rang, and she glanced at Wang An, I'll answer the call. Okay, I'll wait for you. Wang An shyly retracted his arms and touched his nose. Zhou Guang walked outside while answering the phone, and the voice came to his ears, hello, Zhou Guang, is that classmate Zhou? I am a police officer from the Chongshan Road police station. Your parents are at the police station here and ask to see you. For a moment in Zhou Guang, I really wanted to drop my phone. Why don't you go? Your parents didn't eat or drink, and now they came to this city with nothing. Why do you have this attitude? Do you still have any conscience? They raised you for nothing, and even paid for your college. I don't care what they said to you. Zhou Guang gritted his teeth, realized that his voice was a little high, pushed open the door and went out, and said in a low voice outside, "But they didn't raise me and didn't support me to go to college. 2 liars. Then you come and take them away." Zhou Guang was silent for a long time. "Is it necessary to go? If you don't come, they can go through legal action." "Okay, it will be over in half an hour." Hanging up the phone, Zhou Guang looked back and saw Wang An and Wang Mei coming out together, and caught Wang An's sight. Zhou Guang paused. "I have something to do, so I have to go first." Zhou Guang glanced at Wang An and said, "What's your phone number?" Wang An reported a series of numbers. Zhou Guang called, and hung up when he heard his bell ring. "Here is my phone number, contact me when I have time." "Wang Mei, how are you going back later? Aren't you coming with me? We don't go in the same direction." Zhou Guang said, "I have to go to Chongshan Road. Subway." Zhou Guang glanced at his watch, and said no longer politely, "That's fine, see you later." Turning around and walking outside in a hurry, Wang An saw that Zhou Shijuan was gone, his eyes sank, and he raised his legs to leave. "Hi!" Wang Mei said, "What's your relationship with Zhou Guang?" "Friend." Wang An didn't want to say any more, and turned his head to stare at Wang Mei with a calm expression. "Is there anything else?" "No. I'm leaving." When Wang An talked to her, he was not gentle, even a little cold. Wang Mei opened her mouth for a while and then turned it away. Wang An had already strode away, and walked to the sports car at the entrance of the film and television city, opened the door and sat in. Eyes widened suddenly, "Bitch! This handsome guy is rich." The car drove away with a bang. Wang Mei blinked her eyes for a while before she realized it. "This handsome guy seems to be Zhou Guang's friend, my god." It was 4 o'clock in the afternoon when Zhou Guang arrived at the police station, and the sun was still fierce. The taxi fare was 79 in total. When Zhou Guang paid for it, his flesh hurt, and he got back 21 for 100 yuan. That couple didn't spend a dime on her body, and now this leech is sticking to her body, and they can't even pick it off. It's really disgusting. Zhou Guang had just entered the police station. Before he asked where he was, there was a shout behind him, "Shi Guang!" Zhou Guang's instinctive hairs stood on end. Looking back, Chen Jianwei was wearing a worn yellow vest, grey trousers and canvas shoes. His hair was short and white, and his eyes were dishonestly aimed at Zhou Guang. Zhou Guang was so disgusted that he frowned. "Tell me what's going on." Seeing Chen Jianwei approaching, he immediately raised his voice, "Stand there and talk. Is this your attitude towards Lao Tzu?" Chen Jianwei lost his temper when he saw Zhou Shijuan like this. He pointed at her forehead and scolded, "Did I raise you for nothing? You see, such a person went to college for nothing. He has no quality, and he taught you in college. Such a thing. Okay, I don't have the quality." Zhou Guang turned around and walked outside. "Stop! You bastard, why are you running?" As he said that, Chen Jianwei chased after him to play Zhou Guang. "Bianlang's thing, now that I have money, I don't even recognize it. You hit me and try." Zhou Guang suddenly turned his head and pointed at his forehead, "Chen Jianwei, I warn you, if you hit me once, I will put you in prison for the rest of your life." "This is the police station." A policeman who was going to persuade was stopped and shook his head. It's hard for an upright official to break up housework. Zhou Guang has always had a bad temper, but now that he is afraid of poverty, he puts on a good temper when he goes out, and greets people with a smile on his face outside. "Shi Guang, you shouldn't talk to your father like this." Lu Kuihua was originally silent, coughing from time to time. At this time, he also stood up. His voice was like a bellows, panting, "Shijuan, don't talk back to your father, he is your father. Do you know why you are what you are today? This Lu Kuihua is really the saddest woman, and Zhou Guang has no good impression of her. It's because you are cowardly and incompetent, and you can't even protect your own daughter." What kind of mother are you? Don't you still have the same attitude towards Zhou Mengchai now? If you are human, don't let this man lead you by the nose again. You rebel! Chen Jianwei raised his hand and hit Zhou Guang. Zhou Guang dodged to one side, his backpack had slipped off his shoulders, and in a rage he hit Chen Jianwei with his face covered in his hand. If you want money, you go dreaming. After all, Chen Jianwei is a man, and he has been imprisoned for several years, and he looks like a wretched hooligan. Grabbing Zhou Guang's school bag, he threw her out. Zhou Guang fell to the floor and burst into tears. Help! The police couldn't sit idly by and quickly pulled Chen Jianwei away. Don't do it! Zhou Guang just cried. She had no choice, the household registration was in their house. Zhou Guang could not escape from this quagmire. Zhou Meng told her at the beginning, I know what Chen Jianwei is, so I will not do anything to make him die or go to prison for a lifetime. I want to keep him disgusting you all the time. A rogue has no family and no career, so he will be a rogue, and he will play a rogue without time limit. But Zhou Guang wants face and face, and she still needs to study and live. Raising a child doesn't prevent old age. What do I want her to do? It's better to beat her to death. If you dare to do it again, you will be detained directly. Seeing a little girl crying pitifully, the police ordered several people to hold down Chen Jianwei, and a policewoman came to comfort Zhou Guang. Get up and talk first. They never raised me. I grew up with my adoptive parents. Now morality is kidnapped for money. This is to kill me. He is not a good person, lazy, and sentenced to 3 years for theft. They never raised me. I work part-time now to make money and pay tuition. Where do I get the money from when they come to ask for money? Zhou Guang was really desperate. Even though he knew he was acting, he was emotionally involved and cried tears all over his face, except I don't owe them anything for the little blood that bleeds on my body. Do I have to toss my life to pay it off? This is a family matter, and the police department can't help it. Why don't you talk about it carefully? After all, we are a family. Zhou Guang was about to cry again. She had nothing to say to Chen Jianwei. An older policeman began to reprimand Chen Jianwei. Why don't you go out and do some work when you have hands and feet? Do you have to force your daughter to death? She has money in her hand, but she won't spend it for me. Zhou Guang has stayed at Zhou's family for 18 years, so it's impossible that he didn't save anything. She doesn't want to spend it for herself. Chen Jianwei insists that Zhou Guang is a heartless dog. Have you ever seen such a daughter? She deserves it for beating her, and she deserves it. Fart. The policeman was angry. Is there a father like you? No matter whether she has money or not, you should worry about it. You have no right to spend it. Did you raise her or something? If it weren't for me, she could have lived a good life in that Zhou family for more than 10 years. Batuzi is not filial. Zhou Guang lowered her head, her hair covered half of her face, and she pinched her fingers tightly in the dark. The nails were sunk into the flesh. If it wasn't for Chen Jianwei's nonsense, now Zhou Guang is still at Zhou's house, with his parents. She really wanted to kill Chen Jianwei, but killing people meant paying for their lives, and Zhou Shijuan was not that stupid. Ungrateful. Chen Jianwei was still cursing. Sooner or later, I will die. Do you have to force your daughter to death? The policeman couldn't sit still any longer. He stood up and slapped the table. I've never seen anyone like you. What kind of father are you? Your daughter works to earn money studying. Where does she have money? A girl in her 20s, tell me how much money she has. Give it to you? You are in your 70s and 80s and can't walk now? Why can't you make money in your 40s? My daughter will give you money to spend. Chen Jianwei has never worked in his life, and has lived stealthily for decades. Zhou Guang wants to go far away, find a place where no one knows him, and start over. I can't control your housework, but if you do anything to your girl, we have the right to detain you. The police couldn't figure out why, so Zhou Guang walked away quickly when he went out. Chen Jianwei was so angry that he didn't get the money, he was not reconciled at all. Looking back, I saw Lu Kuihua walking slowly, gasping for breath 3 times after walking, and I was very angry. Turning around and kicking her, Lu Kuihua fell to the ground, crying. Chen Jianwei shouted at Zhou Shijuan in the distance, "Just wait and see, if you don't give me money for a day, I will make trouble to my death. As long as I don't feel ashamed, I will go to your school to make trouble every day." Zhou Guang paused, took a deep breath and remained silent for a while, almost walking forward. After turning the corner, Chen Jianwei couldn't see himself, and Zhou Guang sat on the side of the road with his head buried in his knees for a long time. She got up, a little dizzy and almost fell to the ground. She regained her composure, turned around and walked in the direction of the police station. Chen Jianwei cursed and beat Lu Kuihua. Zhou Guangqi didn't make a single call, opened his wallet and took out $1,000 and threw it to Chen Jianwei. "I only have so much, Chen Jianwei, I didn't take a dime from Zhou's family, and all my savings are only so much. If you want, take it, if you don't want it, you can make trouble wherever you want." Zhou Guang looked at Chen Jianwei condescendingly. "Zhou Meng is rich now, you go to her, you have raised her, but you have never raised me for a day. It's my bottom line, if you dare to come to me again next time, I will cut off her medical expenses." Zhou Guang pointed to Lu Kuihua who was sitting on the ground crying, "You won't get even a dime. You tried it just now. It doesn't work even if you go to the police station or the court. Give me the money earlier, waste so much talk." Although Chen Jianwei was dissatisfied with Zhou Guang's behavior of throwing money, he had given the money and was just about to pick it up. Zhou Guang stepped on the renminbi and raised his chin, "Don't come to me again. If there is a next time, I will buy all the money and kill you. You." Chen Jianwei raised his head and stared at Zhou Guang with sinister eyes, "How dare you? Try it if you don't believe me." Zhou Guang sneered, turned and left. In the next few days, Zhou Guang didn't even have money for meals. The exam was coming up soon, and the materials fee had to be paid. Zhou Guang looked through his wallet, only a few coins left. I rummaged through the drawers and the head of the bed, and found 30 yuan. After paying 20 yuan for the phone bill, there was still 10 yuan left over to eat a hot pot with meat and rice in the school cafeteria. She really regretted not taking the substitute, and it cost thousands of yuan once. With nothing in his wallet, Zhou Guang got up and went out. Pressed the mobile phone and made a call, and it took a long time to get through. "Who?" "Senior sister, it's me, Amy, we co-produced commercials before." Zhou Guang said with a smile, "Is there any shortage of people on your side recently? You want to come?" The senior's hoarse voice came from the phone, "You know what job you have, and you have decided. It's not prostitution." Zhou Guang smiled, nails digging into his flesh, "What price?" "I have a guest who misses you, don't be a regular customer." Zhou Guang interrupted her, "What's the normal price?" "Don't go out." 1,000, how much tip you can get depends on your own ability." "Okay, what time will it be?" This senior has a stage named Serena, who is 5 years older than her, and they met when they were filming commercials. She used to be a model, but now that she is too old to mix with models, she took a part-time job as a pimp. Live. 7 o'clock in the evening, Xinhui International Club, call me when you arrive. See you. Zhou Guang hung up the phone, took a deep breath looking at the distance, raised his hand to rub his cheeks, turned and went back to the dormitory. At 8:30 in the evening, Zhou Guang looked at his distorted face in the mirror for a while. Pretty. Serena wore heavy makeup, leaned against the cabinet in the dressing room with a smile, stared at Zhou Guang and said in an almost sighing tone, "You are such a beauty, I want to you even if I am a man." Thanks. During the week, in this messy dressing room full of various peculiar smells, my mind is exceptionally clear. The two most important things for her right now, the first thing is to make money, she is very short of money. The second matter is based on the first matter, to solve Chen Jianwei, it is best to let him go to prison for a lifetime. As for the method, Zhou Guang still needs the support of money. Zhou Guang has lived in a superior and noble environment since he was a child, but he has never had trouble with money, and now he has reached this point. She knew where she was, but she still couldn't do things like being naked. She chose to make money here in the short term because no one knew her under a pseudonym. I'll go there with you later. It's okay to be thick-skinned. Most of the guests here are polite. At most, they will let you drink with them. Don't be so honest when drinking. If you really can't drink it, quietly spit it on the napkin. That the method is very useful, but you have to pretend to be a little bit, don't be so fake that the guests will find out, otherwise it won't look good. The intercom rang and Serena picked it up. Okay, take someone there right away. He turned around, clapped his hands and said, go to work. Really like a contractor. Hey, Amy, you come here too. Zhou Guang was called, so he took a deep breath and went out together. Boss Meng. Meng Yongyi fiddled with the lighter with a bang of blue flames and lit the cigarette. He raised his eyes and looked over. Hey! The project in the new area don't move for now. Meng Yongyi leaned on the sofa, squinting his eyes slightly, cigarettes were held between his slender fingers, and the rising white smoke reflected his extraordinarily deep facial features. Boss is very thoughtful, don't be messed with if you can't eat meat. It's fishy all over. Meng Yongyi sneered, took a deep breath of cigarettes, and tilted his head slightly to look at the person in front of him. Don't worry. Everyone wants to eat that piece of fat in the new district, but no one dares to be the first to eat it. The faces of his subordinates were embarrassing. Meng Yongyi gave up his promising career in the army 2 years ago and came back to join the family business. In the past 2 years, he has been steadily gaining a foothold in the Meng family. As soon as he spoke, there was a knock on the door, and then a group of girls walked in. Meng Yongyi didn't look up, there are a few of his subordinates here, they are all fun-loving people. He put out the cigarette in the ashtray, picked up the cup and took a sip, the cold liquid rolled down his throat and was hot all the way. Boss Meng wants to keep that. Manager Lu next to him looked over with a smile, but the rest of them didn't dare to choose. Meng Yongyi raised his eyebrows and looked up, taking a glance. Just about to speak, he suddenly stopped, and immediately looked up again. A fair face, hair to reveal delicate facial features, bright eyes. Meng Yongyi was taken aback for a moment, squinting his eyes to look over, his eyes were deep, and he couldn't tell where the anger came from. You. It turns out that she is a prostitute here, why pretend to be noble? That night was probably just a trick she played with the guests, what the hell, hey? In the dim box, the man sat in the innermost position with a big horse. A pair of dark and deep eyes. Zhou Guang walked 2 steps and suddenly remembered that this person had seen him before, in the parking lot that night. I was shocked in my heart, but I quickly suppressed it and didn't show anything on my face. Mr. Meng asked you to go over, why are you dawdling? Zhou Guang pinched the palm of his hand and pretended not to know him at all. Gentlemen. She hesitated for a while and sat down beside Meng Yongyi, forced a smile on the corner of her mouth. Hi, my name is Amy. Meng Yongyi leaned back on the sofa, staring at her with dark eyes, gloomy. Zhou Guang was looked at with hairs all over her body. She didn't know what to do in this situation. Several other people in the box had chosen girls, singing and drinking. Meng Yongyi took out a cigarette, held it to his lips, and pointed to the lighter in front of him. Zhou Guang came to his senses and quickly took the lighter and handed it over. Meng Yongyi didn't answer, he chuckled and stared at Zhou Guang's hand. Have you never learned how to serve people? That kind of contempt made Zhou Guang feel a little trembling in his heart, but he quickly calmed down. Isn't it because of money? Light a cigarette and be afraid of eggs. She approached cautiously, her fingers trembling violently, which she really couldn't control. Zhang Weiwei pressed the button, and the lighter went off. Meng Yongyi looked at her leisurely, his interest faded, and now the nightclubs are getting more and more sophisticated, knowing that many customers like this pure girl who knows nothing, it's interesting. Zhou Guang finally lit Meng Yongyi's cigarette and watched him smoke. Time passed by every minute and every second, only their corner was silent and cramped. Zhou Guang couldn't sit still anymore, he looked up. Do you want to sing? Or drink? Play games? Meng Yongyi put his hand on Zhou Guang's shoulder, and Zhou Guang's whole body became stiff. How much is it for one night? Meng Yongyi still had a cigarette in his mouth, he pulled Zhou Guang into his arms with all his strength, and clasped her shoulders with his big hands. She was wearing a black skirt. The skirt is too big and doesn't fit very well. It may be the work clothes here, with the uniform smell of cheap perfume on it. Zhou Guang turned pale with fright and struggled. 10,000. He thought the woman was trying to raise the price. I don't sell myself. He was so strong that Zhou Guang couldn't push it away, and his face was flushed. 50,000. Meng Yongyi raised his legs to rest on the table in front of him, and removed the cigarette from his lips. Not enough. Zhou Guang's teeth were chattering, and he pursed his lips tightly. Sir, I will not introduce. Meng Yongyi looked down. The girls were not big, she was the slender and tall one. It was the first time for Meng Yongyi to be interested in this kind of woman with little soup and water. Maybe she interpreted the word panic that night too realistically. Meng Yongyi laughed all at once, and his smile was a little gloomy. His fingers scratched Zhou Guang's chin, and he lifted it up. Are you joking? Zhou Guang was forced to raise his head and look at him, trembling with fear, he squeezed his fingers tightly. Tell me, how much is it? Meng Yongyi met her eyes, let go of his hand, leaned on the sofa and lit a cigarette lazily again. I'm not going out. Zhou Guang immediately took half a step back from the shackles he was freed from. She can't offend customers, she can't offend, she is here to make money. It took a long time to suppress the fear in my heart, took a breath quietly, looked up into Meng Yongyi's eyes, and smiled. Meng Yongyi stood condescending and stared down, white smoke rising slowly. Sir, I'm really sorry. Roll. Meng Yongyi didn't look at her anymore, he dropped the ashes from the cartridge between his fingers, leaned on the sofa and snorted casually. Come over here with someone else. Zhou Guang was dazed for a few seconds as the insult poured over her head. She turned her head to look at this man, and she pursed her lips. Is it against you if you don't sleep with me? The girl's voice was not loud, she was still very calm, her black and white eyes were clear. Meng Yongyi turned his head to look over, squinted his eyes slightly, breathed out a smoke ring, and looked condescendingly. This was the first time someone asked him that. The service fee is 1,005, including singing, drinking and chatting with you. Zhou Guang squeezed her fingers so tightly that her nails sank into her flesh. She looked straight at the brutal and terrifying man in front of her, trying to be as calm as possible. The service fee is 1,500, and the store will charge 500. Where did I not do well to make you dissatisfied, sir? If you let her go, then go away, and she has to talk nonsense. Meng Yongyi frowned, turned his gaze to Zhou Guang, and pointed to a bottle of wine on the table. 1,005, right? I'll give you 2,000, drink it and get out. As he spoke, he ordered a man sitting beside him, give her the cash. Assistant Zhu was taken aback for a moment before he realized it, and quickly took out 2,000 cash from his bag and put it on the table. Several people around looked over. Zhou Guang pursed her lips, she had never had a drink. Swallowing his throat, looking at the money on the table, Zhou Guang stood up without saying a word, picked up the bottle and drank with his head up. She had never drank such strong wine, and the yellowish liquid swayed. Meng Yongyi leaned on the sofa and smoked. He was really full today. He frowned and took a deep breath of the cigarette, the nicotine was boiling in his lungs. This wine is really bad, I feel like vomiting after the first sip. 2,500 for the store, and she left 15,000. Isn't it just drinking? When you close your eyes, you drink water. Boss Meng manager Su next to him said, "What's the matter? Let her drink." Meng Yongyi raised his hand to flick off the cigarette ash, his expression calm. When Zhou Guang drank half of the bottle, she was a little unsteady, she swayed and leaned on the table and bent slightly. Looking back at Meng Yongyi, he couldn't see clearly, his vision was blurry. Lifting the bottle again, the liquid flowed down her chin and fell into her clothes. When Zhou Guang finished drinking a bottle, she was really dazed, she reached out to get the money in a daze. Holding it in the palm of her hand, the edge of the brand new RMB cut her hand sorely. Turning her head and bowed 90 degrees to Meng Yongyi, she smiled. "Thanks." Meng Yongyi's face became very ugly in an instant, she raised her mouth and squinted around, then turned and walked outside. "I'm leaving." Her voice was slow, slurred, and smiling. Before going out the door, he fell head first to the ground, his movements were very funny, like a clown, and everyone burst into laughter. Meng Yongyi didn't smile, his eyes sank, he looked at the ground deeply, she was really small. "Amy." Serena quickly stood up, sorry, she's new here and doesn't know the rules. What's her name?" Meng Yongyi interrupted her, and looked over with dark eyes, cold and deep. "Amy. What's your real name?" "I have no idea." Serena glanced at the people on the ground anxiously, not knowing what to do. She didn't know the rules when she came here, please forgive me if she offends, I'll call other girls over. Meng Yongyi waved his hand, "No, take her away." Serena hurriedly pulled Zhou Guang up and walked outside. Zhou Guang vomited in the bathroom, and Serena scolded outside, "You are so stupid, I have nothing to say." "Why are you so stupid? Are you stupid? You are a woman, so you can drink as soon as you are told? Don't you know how to act like a baby? You have a pretty face." Zhou Guang's head was a mess, and he couldn't understand anything. "Hurry up and change your clothes and go back." Zhou Guang was sitting on the floor holding the toilet and crying loudly. Serena took out a cigarette, lit it and took a puff, watching her quietly. She has also experienced this, but what can she do? Always live. Art students are really not easy to mix, and they are not as good as other majors. If you can't find a job in your major, you can change to another one. But with their major, they can't afford to be in the entertainment industry after graduation, and their family is also poor, so they really have nowhere to go. Front desk? Service industry? The professional knowledge is not good, the work is well behaved and the wages are too low. After a few years, I can't even afford a decent bag. She is still young, and there will be many places where she will cry in the future, and she may not be able to cry again after crying. Serena leaned on the sink to finish smoking a cigarette. Zhou Guang also finished crying, she fell asleep on the toilet, it was so disgusting, Serena wanted to kick her out. The next day, Zhou Guang woke up in a clean and tidy room, she froze for a moment. Immediately, he turned over abruptly, and rolled to the floor in a flash, his bones almost shattered from the fall, and his teeth bared in pain. "Woke up!" A woman's voice sounded in the distance, and Zhou Guang hurriedly got up from the ground. Serena came out of the bathroom wearing a suspenders, eyebrow pencil still in hand. "Take a shower and go out to eat." With a hoarse and lazy voice, she glanced at Zhou Guang. "You are not shameful enough." Zhou Guang really drank yesterday, scratching his head, "I'm sorry. Apologize to me, wash your face. This is a small apartment with 2 bedrooms and 1 living room. The decoration style is not luxurious, but very clean. Lend me a skirt, and I'll meet a producer later." "Ah." Zhou Guang's head is running rapidly, what does it mean? You are not suitable for going to nightclubs. Don't go there in the future. I know a producer. Recently, I have a play in my hand that needs a supporting role. Go and try it. Thanks. My name is Chen Hong. Serena said, if you don't mind, call me Sister Chen from now on. Sister Chen, thank you. Zhou Guang bowed, thanked him sincerely, turned and went into the bathroom. Fool! Chen Hong couldn't help laughing, picked up the cigarette case from the table, took out a long and thin cigarette, held it between her fingers, lit it and smoked on the first floor. Half an hour later, Zhou Guang was wearing Chen Hong's white dress and a pair of out-of-date flat shoes. Chen Hong drove her out for dinner. Breakfast was only available on weekdays. When she was packing her things, she found 2,000 yuan neatly in her bag. After eating, the two went to the set. The crew is in the ancient town of Zhochuang, a house-fighting drama in the Republic of China. Chen Hong drove for an hour to arrive. Walking on the bluestone path, Zhou Guang was a little nervous and a little excited. She deliberately forgot what happened last night, and hoped that she would never see that person again in this life. Chen Hong's phone rang, and she connected. The other party didn't know what to say, and she replied, "Okay, I'll be there right away. Do you have a resume?" "Have." Zhou Guang was taken aback for a moment, and quickly flipped through his backpack. All right, I won't read it, you can show it to the assistant director later." "Okay." Zhou Guang paused, then raised the corner of his mouth, "Thank you, Sister Chen. After it's done, please treat me to dinner if you want to thank me." "Okay." Zhou Guang added, "Definitely." They were the assistant director who met in a tea house. The assistant director was quite young and wore black rimmed glasses. Sitting next to him was a man in his 30s who looked honest. After the introduction, I took my seat. The assistant director looked at Zhou Guang and said, "Do you have a resume?" "Yes." Zhou Guang quickly sent his resume with both hands. "Hi, my name is Zhou Guang, a student of the acting department of S Drama Academy. I quickly searched the director's information of this play in my head. The director's surname is Huang, and he is very low-key. After filming a palace fighting drama in the Qing dynasty before, it became popular, and I have been following this style. His plays are full of all kinds of ironic and cruel realism." Zhou Guang didn't expect to be so lucky that Chen Hong could bring himself such a good role. "To be honest, your external conditions are very suitable for this character." The tutor flipped through Zhou Guang's materials, put it down, and looked up. "However, your qualifications are too low. I don't know how your acting skills are, whether you can play this role. So, I am hesitating. Can I try?" Zhou Guang said, "I am willing to try, please give me a chance." The assistant director laughed, "Girl, you don't seem to know what role you want to play, so you dare to make such a big determination." "I like acting." Zhou Guang looked into his eyes and said seriously, "No matter what I am acting, as long as I have the opportunity, I will go all out to act. To experience different roles, such a challenge is a kind of challenge for an actor. Enjoy." The assistant director looked at Zhou Guang in silence. After a moment of confrontation, Zhou Guang slowly raised the corners of his mouth and laughed. "Can I try?" The assistant director stood up. Zhou Guang's heart tightened, and he said, "Go to the crew for an audition, the director has agreed for you to stay." "Thanks." Zhou Guang was elated, but on the surface he still didn't dare to show it too obviously. He smiled and followed the assistant director to the set. "This is the script, you should read it first, you are going to play the maidservant Hungziu." When Zhou Guang opened the script, he didn't describe too much about Hungziu. The background is the end of the Qing dynasty and the beginning of the Republic of China. Hungziu is a girl from a poor and small family. She was sold to the Shen family at the age of 7 as a maid for Miss Shen's family. Miss Shen's family is the heroine of this drama. Later, her family fell down and she was forced to marry General Bai as the third concubine. General Bai loved this third aunt very much, admiring the stars and the moon, and doing all romantic things. Hung Ziyu secretly had other thoughts. The third aunt was too pregnant, so she took the opportunity to climb into General Bai's bed, and she was lucky enough to be promoted as the seventh aunt. But General Bai didn't like her at all. The child was not kept, the war broke out, and General Bai's position was in jeopardy. He sent Hung Ziyu out in order to win over the allies. Hung Ziyu worked so hard to love her that she couldn't get it, so she committed suicide by drinking a bomb the night she sent it out. She is a tragic character, which is different from the heroine who has independent thinking. She is a typical victim of feudal society, and she joined the crew after watching Zhou Guang. Everyone at the scene was busy, and the assistant director brought Zhou Guang in. He whispered something to the director, and the director turned around to look. Seeing Zhou Guang, he frowned. Let's try the play. Most people can't get that kind of feeling in acting this role, but people with good acting skills will not come to the crew to run out of tricks. The actor who was originally scheduled was temporarily pushed back because of a better opportunity on the pretext of not being able to meet the schedule. The director was also very depressed for a while, and could not find a suitable person. He is a perfectionist. He couldn't find the red sleeve in his heart, so he kept off the phone to shoot this group. The producer recommended this young girl today, and everyone was skeptical. Is it okay? I'll play the last part. Zhou Guang took the script and read it for a while, then said to the director, is that okay? Okay. The director shouted, Mr. Cheng, come over and have a play with this young lady. Cheng Zihan is the leading actor and producer of this play. He is tall in costume and has the air of a warlord. Cheng Zihan had nothing to do when he was idle, so he strode over and looked Zhou Guang up and down. Can we start? Zhou Guang quickly memorized her lines, and she nodded. In this scene, General Bai came to find her. She thought that her years of affection had finally been rewarded, and she went to greet her happily, but what she got was a gift. Zhou Guang was brewing emotions. Cheng Zihan had already entered the scene, and said, the shogunate's car is waiting outside, pack your things and go there. He was tired of this woman and didn't want to stay for a quarter of an hour, so he turned around and wanted to leave. Warlord. Hung Ziyu stared blankly at the man in front of him. Unbelievable. What did you say? The voice trembled, and the nails couldn't help pinching the palm of the hand, pinching it tightly and then loosening it. Overseer, why? General Bai only paused for a moment, then strode away into the distance. It's good to do it for yourself. Hung Ziyu worked hard to climb up, just to touch General Bai. She loves General Bai, and fell in love with him the first time they met. General Bai didn't like her, so she didn't do much, just a glance from a distance was enough. The White House is so big, why can't it accommodate her? Warlord, the man had already left without a trace. Hung Ziyu was still staring at the door with trembling lips. A tear fell down her cheek to the ground, and she was still looking in that direction. For a long time, she lowered her head, her shoulders slumped, and she seemed to murmur, are you sure you don't want the red sleeve? Why don't you? There was no sound in the studio. There is no such passage in the script, and the red sleeve chases out and wails loudly in the script. Zhou Guang thought that if she could cry, she would definitely not commit suicide by drinking a bullet. There was a long silence. Hong Xiu turned and went back to the room. Everyone was waiting for her next move, but she just sat on the side of the bed, stroking the satin silk quilt inch by inch with her fingers. Her eyes were affectionate and infatuated. When he raised her as the seventh concubine, she was like this bright silk under his body. She thought that this was her life. The director didn't stop, and Zhou Guang stared at the brocade quilt with dazed eyes. The bright colors lasted for a long time, and after a long time, he laughed with teary eyes. After all, it's all empty, all empty. Love and hate are all in vain. She fought and robbed and tried to climb up, but in the end it was just a dream, and he drove himself into with his own hands. There was a loud noise outside, and the shogunate came to pick him up. She was a concubine who was sent away, and she had to go through the back door, and she had to go at night, because the dark sky outside had no light at all. The mother-in-law and the servant girl came in to urge people. Hong Xiu pinched her fingers and took out the gun from under the pillow and stuffed it in her sleeve. If you can't die in Bai's house, it will kill General Bai. Standing up, Hung Xiu looked at the room behind with nostalgia. She turned and walked out the door without looking back. Zhou Guang walked out, and it took a long time for the director and several actors to react. They glanced at each other, and they acted well, very engaging. At the very least, they were all involved in the play, and a student from the acting department who had no works to play against Cheng Zihan was not weaker than his aura at all. Hey, where's the actor? It was only when Zhou Guang's phone rang that she came back to her senses. It was daytime, and she was not a concubine of the White House, but Zhou Guang. He took out his mobile phone and looked at the incoming call. It was an unfamiliar number, and the voice of the assistant director rang out in the room. Where are the actors? Zhou Guang hung up the phone, turned around and ran into the house. Sorry, the acting was too deep and I accidentally walked out. Both the director and the leading actor laughed, and squinted their eyes to look at Zhou Guang. The acting was deeply rooted in the hearts of the people. Zhou Guang fits the role regardless of his appearance or age, so he became interested. Come on, let's play another scene where the red sleeve meets the white general for the first time. Cheng Zihan stood up. It's her. That kind of lingering and complicated eyes, the acting is too engrossing. Turning to look at the director, I don't have much time now, let her go. The production team worked swiftly and quickly, and the contract was signed in the afternoon. Go back and pack your things, come and talk to the crew tomorrow until the filming is finished. Zhou Guang nodded quickly, thank you, I'll come over tomorrow morning. Serena sent Zhou Guang over and went to have dinner with the producer, and Zhou Guang gave up on calling her if she didn't get through. Walking out of the ancient town to wait for the bus, the phone rang again, and it was the same number. Zhou Guang connected. Hi, I'm Zhou Guang. Time, where is it? Man's voice? Zhou Guang was stunned. Zhouguang ancient town. What? Come here for an interview. Zhou Guang remembered who he was, Wangan. I'll pick you up and have dinner together tonight. Zhou Guang looked up at the darkening clouds in the sky, and laughed. It's so far away, maybe another day. It's not like you want to come back after being so far away? I'll pick you up in the past. Zhou Guang thought about Wangan for a while, and said, it's too troublesome. When the bus arrived, she got on it quickly. Zhou Guang, you don't treat me as a friend. Wang An's tone was a little aggressive, and he became fierce. Is it so difficult to treat you to a meal? After Zhou Guang went up, he found a seat and sat down. After all, the relationship for many years is still there, and he couldn't help laughing. Okay, we will meet at K City Railway Station in an hour. Goodbye. Wang An hung up the phone. Zhou Guang sat by the window. The car shook violently. She took out the earphones from her bag and put them on, closed her eyes. The man's face suddenly appeared in her head. Zhou Guang opened her eyes suddenly, frightened. Swallowing his throat, he didn't feel sleepy anymore, leaning against the window and watching the trees and ancient buildings retreating rapidly. A small town in the south of the Yangtze River, with small bridges and flowing water, is very quiet. She is not reconciled to a mediocre life. She must climb up, and strive to become a master no matter what. An hour later, Zhou Guang got off at the terminal, and just as he was about to take out his mobile phone, Wang An called. Over there. Entrance to South Station. Come here, the white off-road vehicle on the side of the road, mine. Zhou Guang squinted his eyes, walked to the side of the road and quickly searched the white off-road. Over there. Sitting in the car, Wang An saw Zhou Guang came into view. Her hair was draped over her shoulders, making her face smaller and thinner. She was tall, thin and clean. Turning up the corners of his mouth, he opened the car door and got out. Look up. Seeing him, Zhou Guang hung up the phone and walked over quickly. Wang An. Wang An hurriedly pulled away from her smile, turned and got into the car. Boarding. Zhou Guang glanced at Wang An. He was wearing a light-colored t-shirt and jeans, very casual. I haven't grown taller in the past few years, and died at 1.78 meters. Have you had an interview yet? Of course. Zhou Guang stretched his neck and leaned on the seat, pulled the seat belt, pretending to be relaxed. You have to believe in my ability. What crew? What are you acting in? Splendid family, a servant girl. Zhou Guang and Wang An have known each other for too long. Even if they haven't seen each other for 5 years, there are still limited strangers. Wang An was silent for a while, then turned the car and drove on the road. When my film and television company starts up, you can choose the script. Zhou Guang laughed out loud, and turned to look at Wang An's side face. Your father agrees with you to start a film and television company? He is also relieved of your temper. He promised to give me 500 million startup funds. If I'm done, I'll leave Wanchange. If I can't, I'll go back to work in the office. Wang An turned his head to look at Zhou Guang, raised his thick eyebrows, and said confidently, as long as I want, I can do it. It must do well. He has this capital, Zhou Guang is very envious of him, 500 million capital, 500 million. I wish you success. Zhou Guang didn't care much about the promise of this rambunctious rich second generation. According to his level of affection, even if he opened a film and television company, the scripts in his hand would not be enough for Zhou Guang. He still has so many lovers. Wang An raised the corner of his mouth. If you like acting, then I will make you a queen. It's a deal. Zhou Guang smiled with his brows and eyes curved. Thank you, Mr. Wang. Here first. Just like when they were young, Wang An said, Zhou Guang, if I can beat you, you will be my girlfriend. When Wang An was able to beat Zhou Guang brought Meng Hao to appear in front of him, and she introduced that this is my boyfriend. An hour later, the car entered the urban area and stopped in front of a private restaurant. I like their braised pork. When Zhou Guang got off the car, she was so hungry that she didn't eat at noon. I know you like to eat. Wang An got out of the car and raised his hand to touch Zhou Guang's shoulder. His hand stopped in midair, and he put it back in his pocket for no reason. Zhou Guang's footsteps suddenly stopped, and Wang An followed her gaze. On the other side, Meng Hao walked over with a girl hanging on his arm. His eyes met. For a moment, all four of them paused. I haven't seen Meng Hao for almost 3 years. Zhou Guang thought he had forgotten about him, but it was only when I met her that I thought I was ridiculous. Time. Zhou Meng spoke first, and she glanced at Wang An. What a coincidence. Meng Hao hasn't changed much, he is tall and has handsome features. It was this kind of person who made Zhou Guang like him so much back then. He pointed at Zhou Guang's face and said, I've never seen such a vicious person like you. Don't come to me again. Hi. What are you doing here? You can also come to this kind of place. Zhou Guang's hands trembled. She adjusted her facial expression and squinted her eyes slightly. Wang An stepped forward and put his arms around Zhou Guang's shoulders. Meng Hao, long time no see. Meng Hao's expression changed. He stared at Wang An's hand holding Zhou Guang's shoulder, and frowned with thick eyebrows. It took a long time before he took his eyes off Zhou Guang's face. After a period of separation, the time has changed a lot, and she has grown up, with an elegant and generous beauty. When did you return home? Wang An embraced Zhou Guang and walked in front of Meng Hao. Zhou Guang's body was a little stiff, and Wang An pressed her shoulder. Zhou Guang raised his head to look at Meng Hao. Meng Hao's eyes suddenly fell over. Zhou Guang was caught off guard and caught his sight. His heart froze. It's been a while. Wang An saw that his gaze had been on Zhou Guang, and narrowed his eyes. Meng Hao. Meng Hao looked up at Wang An, and Zhou Meng's expression changed instantly. Just now, both of them noticed that Meng Hao had been staring at Zhou Guangguang with deep and complicated eyes. Zhou Meng's heart skipped a beat, and she put her arm around Meng Hao's. "Mom and Dad are still waiting for us. Are you together?" Meng Hao pushed Zhou Meng away by taking out the cigarette case, and looked at Zhou Guang. He took out a cigarette and put it in his mouth, and then looked at Wang An. "What time is it?" "Wang An is back." Zhou Guang smiled and returned to normal. "You and Zhou Meng are getting engaged, congratulations. Speaking of which, I forgot to give you the wedding invitation that day." Zhou Meng suppressed the anger in her heart. She is the orthodox young lady of the Zhou family, why bother to get angry with such bastards? She was wearing a high-waisted skirt and high heels today, which made her legs look long. "I can finally look at the time of the week at the same level, which is gratifying." As he spoke, he took out an invitation card from his bag and handed it over, feeling resentful in his heart. What did Meng Hao mean when he looked at Zhou Guangguang just now? "Zhou Guang, you wait for me. Must come. I will definitely go." Zhou Guang took the invitation, looked up at the two people in front of him, his heart felt like a knife, but his face remained calm. "Congratulations. Let's go first." Meng Hao turned around and walked inside. Zhou Meng took a look at Zhou Shijuan before quickly following him. "Let's go and eat somewhere else." Zhou Guang stuffed the invitation into his bag, turned around and walked back and forth, bowing his head. "Thank you. Why can't you eat here?" Wang An was a little annoyed. He had a domineering personality, and he only made it up for Zhou Guang. "Zhou Guang, how come you are such a wimp now? Others won't fight back when they bully them." Inside are her parents, Zhou Meng and Meng Hao. Zhou Guang didn't want to avoid it, but she couldn't face it either. She didn't know how to answer Wang An, so she took a deep breath. "I don't want to, Wang An." Zhou Guang turned his head to look into Wang An's eyes, and pursed his lips. She really wanted to cry. "Nothing is left, nothing is left. Let's eat somewhere else, okay?" In the end, Wang An still compromised. He strode towards his car without saying a word. Changed to a Shanghai restaurant, and Zhou Guang didn't speak during the meal. A lot of things, she didn't want anyone to know. Zhou Meng is the child of the Zhou family. Is she engaged to Meng Hao? Zhou Guang likes to eat braised pork, and Shanghai cuisine is sweet, which is very suitable for her taste. She bowed her head and ate a portion, feeling better. "Then what are you afraid of?" "I don't want to see my parents." Zhou Guang said. "They are Zhou Meng's parents." Her parents, who have always loved her very much, said to Zhou Guangguang after Zhou Meng was injured, "You go away and never come back. When we see you, we think of our suffering children. I don't want to hate you, but I can't help it." Their children were treated harshly in the countryside, and Zhou Guang, a counterfeit, was pampered and raised in Zhou's family. It was so unfair. Your current Wang An took a deep breath. "How are your parents now?" "If possible, I would rather be an orphan." Zhou Guang smiled and shrugged. Wang An felt unspeakably uncomfortable, a little distressed, took out a cigarette, lit it and took a deep breath. "It's been 5 years, why didn't you contact me?" "You didn't contact me either." Zhou Guang drank soup, looked up and smiled. "Why don't you contact me?" Wang An gritted his teeth and waited for Zhou Guang to contact him. Who knew that this guy could hold back so much that he broke off contact? "What do you say?" "I have no idea." Zhou Guang finished a bowl of soup, wiped his mouth with a tissue, and brought a teacup to Wang An. "The friendship is back." Wang An settled for a while. Zhou Guang was afraid that he would say something else, so he was apprehensive. He picked up the cup and drank the tea. "Brother, don't mention the past, we have to look forward." Looking at the money, she lowered her head and called Wang An brother. "One day, I will succeed with my own efforts." Zhou Guang said with a smile. "One day, I will no longer be a laughing stock. Is it wrong to be good-looking? But many times, it is wrong. Wang An picked up the tea in front of him and drank it. Looking at Zhou Guang, she really changed a lot. Zhou Guang was such an arrogant person in the past. Zhou Meng's arrogant attitude, if it was Zhou Guang in the past, he would definitely have slapped him. But now, she can bear anything. Good luck. In the evening, Wang An sent Zhou Shijuan back. When he got off the car, Wang An said, "Remember, I am your brother. Never be polite to me. Understood, goodbye." Zhou Guang turned around and walked into the school, waving his hands. Before entering the dormitory, the phone rang. Zhou Guang glanced at the incoming call, half of his head was numb, he gritted his teeth for a long time to adjust his mood before answering, "Hello." She heard her own voice, very soft. "Time is me." The pleasant and gentle voice fell into his ears. Zhou Guang swallowed his throat, and was silent for a while. "Who are you?" Did he think Zhou Guang still loved him? "Pooh. Meng Hao." Meng Hao's tone was a bit more serious. "I'm at the gate of your school, you come out." Zhou Guang's head was in a mess, but he quickly figured it out. "What do you mean? Are you with Wang An? Is it related to you?" "Mr. Meng." Zhou Guang didn't pay attention to look elsewhere when he entered the school gate. Why did Meng Hao come? Isn't he getting engaged? On the other end of the phone, Meng Hao's breathing became heavy. "Zhou Guang, come out for me. I ended up with you 3 years ago. Do you understand? Game over? You only regret it now. Is your conditioned reflex arc too long?" "Mr. Meng." "Zhou Guang, you have feelings for me, can you deceive others, can you deceive yourself? Come out, I will talk about her engagement." He paused for a while. "If you don't come out, you and I are completely over. Well, water does not violate river water, and I never know a man named Zhou Guang." Zhou Guang's nails were dug into his flesh, and he would always remember the scene where Meng Hao pointed at his nose and scolded him 3 years ago. "I'm not that cheap." Zhou Guang was silent for a full minute before she said, "I'll just pretend I didn't receive this call today. You are engaged to Zhou Meng and you have to be responsible to her. This is the most basic moral bottom line for a man. Meng Hao, this is the result of your choice. Bye." HTML error body font family to home of Verdana Arial sans serif, margin 0 auto, width 35 span display none error occurred. Sorry thepiji wara lookin for is currently unavailable. Please try again later. Var underscore hasync equals underscore hasync dot push, histats dot start, 1,4561773,4,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0, underscore hasync dot push, histats dot face 1, underscore hasync dot push, histats dot track underscore hits, function, vars equals document dot createlement, script, s dot type equals text slash javascript s dot async equals 0 s.src equals // s10.histats.com/js15 underscore as.js comma, document.getElements batag name, head, 0 document.getElements batag name, body, 0, append child, s. During filming in the afternoon, Shen Menfei was not in the mood all the time, and the director was still not satisfied after being stuck for more than 20 times. Shen Menfei took pictures of seeing General Bai for the first time. The director called out, and she kicked the stool down when she lifted her foot. There was a loud bang and almost hit Cheng Zihan's feet. He immediately took 2 steps back, and Shen Menfei turned around and went inside. "Walk. Where you go?" The director is also single-minded. "I'm quiet." Zhou Guang didn't know what happened, so he looked up at Cheng Zihan. "Leave her alone." Cheng Zihan frowned, and he gave a bottle to whomever the assistant handed over. "Drink water." "Thanks." Cheng Zihan pointed to the seat next to him. "Sit down and rest for a while." Shenmen Fei played the role of Miss Kyunjin, so she could sit still for a while. Zhou Guang stood the whole time. Cheng Zihan unbuttoned the collar of his military uniform, leaned back on the chair carelessly and filled a half bottle of water. The assistant quickly brought him an electric fan, and Cheng Zihan frowned. Weak time, right? Yes. Zhou Guang was called by his name suddenly, so he hurriedly looked over. Mr. Cheng. Cheng Zihan, you can call me Brother Cheng. Cheng Zihan wanted to read the script, so he raised his hand and handed the water bottle to the assistant, but the assistant went to get the medicine, and his hands froze, and just as he was about to take back his time, he took his water bottle and put it on the table beside him. The temperature has reached 40 degrees these days. The assistant had already returned and handed the medicine to Cheng Zihan. He drank it and frowned for a while before recovering. Have you signed an agency? Not yet. Before, there was a company that was interested in signing itself. The company was small and the conditions were harsh. Zhou Guang thought to wait and see, but it turned out that it had been almost 2 years, and she didn't have an employer yet, so she was just wandering around. Hearing Cheng Zihan's words at this time, hope was immediately ignited, and he carefully concealed his excitement. Cheng Zihan felt that this girl was in good condition, whether it was appearance or acting skills. If she was trained well, she would definitely have a bright future. He is now the investment boss, and his subordinates have just established a brokerage company, and he also invested in this drama. Are you interested in signing? There are pros and cons to signing a contract, and the speed at which the team packs red is very fast. Yes. Zhou Guang held the script in his hand, smiled and looked into Cheng Zihan's eyes. It is the dream of all art students to be signed out without graduation. Cheng Zihan tapped the script lightly with his fingers, thinking. Time seemed to stand still in an instant. Zhou Guang's heart beat like a drum, and he was very nervous. Cheng Zihan has a gold medal agent under him, who is very capable. If he can sign it, he won't have to beg for help everywhere in the future. A woman's youth is short. If she doesn't seize the opportunity, she may be a fool for the rest of her life. Mr. Cheng. The director came here, holding the script in his hand. There is a problem here. Cheng Zihan stood up. What's the problem? You see, this part of the dialogue is unreasonable. The director called the assistant. Call the screenwriter over. Cheng Zihan is a drama idiot. When he heard this, he immediately forgot Zhou's time and walked over quickly. The two discussed the script with serious expressions, and after a while, the screenwriter came over, and the discussion among the three was in full swing. Zhou Guang shrugged, silently calming the beating heart. Sitting on a chair beside him, he drank the remaining half bottle of water and continued to read the script. After reading for a while, he felt thirsty and went to find water, when he heard a small voice. Why did the goddess lose her temper? Goddess is a fart, she is a bitch. Zhou Guang took 2 steps forward and saw that the person speaking was the second female lead of the show. She was wearing a cheongsam and leaning on a chair with her arms folded. Do you know how she got the heroin? Rely on a man. Yo? Tell me what's going on. Mr. Meng's people. Real or fake? The second girl is Qin Qing, 30 years old, beautiful and wealthy. In the play she is the wife of General Bai. Who doesn't know about this? Boss Meng? Zhou Guang heard someone call that man Mr. Meng before. The man named Meng in S City is rich and powerful and he doesn't know him yet. Who is this man? Meng Hao's family is powerful, but the two families are so close. Zhou Guang has played in Meng's family since he was a child, and he has never seen such a person. As for why she lost her temper, she didn't give it away from thousands of miles away. People don't want it. In the morning, Mr. Meng came over, and she rushed up to her, but she was kicked away. Yo, I went again at noon, and this time I directly angered her gold master. Tisk tisk, very interesting. Zhou Guang didn't listen anymore. She wasn't an idiot for what happened in the entertainment industry, so she turned around and walked outside. A dark cloud floated over to cover the venomous sun, and the wind blew through and rolled up the coolness. Zhou Guang unbuttoned his jacket, and he was still wearing suspenders, but it was really hot, so he took out his fan. After standing there for half an hour, the sky began to thunder. Time, boot up. Zhou Guang ran over quickly, and the director was already talking about the play. Change scene, play in the rain, all departments are preparing. Zhou Guang hadn't changed from the first happy meeting between the young lady and General Bai, and immediately turned into a scene of accidents in the young lady's family and being forced to marry. The rain in summer came quickly, and it fell as soon as it was said. The pouring rain hurt my face. Miss. Hung Ziyu went to kiss the person kneeling on the ground. She lowered her head, the rain had already wet her clothes. Miss. Hung Ziyu's tears mixed with the rain, but she had to comfort Miss, and the Shen family had to endure. If Master Shen falls down, in this troubled world, one can imagine Miss Shen's fate. The eldest lady agreed to General Bai to send the third lady of the Shen family there, and he sent troops to rescue the master who was trapped in a bandit den. Miss, you have to be strong. Ms. Zhou's beautiful face was full of tears, and the rain washed her hair, and her black hair was soaked. She knelt on the ground, staring blankly at the sky. She didn't want to marry General Bai, that brutal man. She had a man she liked. If that elegant, handsome and educated man does not marry, what will happen to his father and mother? Kneeling for a long time, my legs are numb and cold. There was a long silence. She stood up, staggered, and Hung Ziyu hurried to hold her arm. Miss Shen's entire body weight was placed on her, and Hong Xiu gritted her teeth to support her. Miss. Amid the thunder, heavy rain hit the two of them, soaking their clothes. Her voice was extremely low, like a whisper, and she was pale and colorless. Go and tell Madam, I'm married, but I have one condition. After kneeling for a long time, the eldest lady didn't come out to look at her. Even if she knelt and died here, the eldest lady would not be able to take back her order. The eldest lady would sit on a tall red lacquered chair and stare at her. As a child, you can't even sacrifice your life to save your father. What face do you have to live? It's fine to die. Today's Shen family is not like it used to be, a big family that others can't afford. General Bai wants to take her as a concubine, what room does she have to resist? Ka. Very good, this scene is very good. The director called out. Shen Menfei shivered and pushed away Zhou Guang. Two assistants trotted over to wrap her in a blanket, and hurriedly dragged her into the room. Zhou Guang also walked quickly towards the house, covered in water, and a small puddle of water accumulated on the ground after she stood for a while. The sky is gloomy, the ancient walls with blue tiles, and the rain is pouring down. The tall trees in the yard struggled with the wind and the rain, as if they had returned to 100 years ago in an instant, in the late Qing dynasty and the early Republic of China, struggling for survival in the troubled times. Master Shen was kidnapped, but Hung Ziyu's elder brother, the servant of the Shen family, was also killed in the same way. The young lady married someone who cried and cried, but her brother died tragically without even a broken seat, so she couldn't cry. The phone rang, and Zhou Guang hurriedly went to the dressing room at the back to find his mobile phone. The caller came from an unfamiliar number, and Zhou Guang answered after hesitating for a while. Hi, I'm Zhou Guang. Is your surname Zhou? Zhou Meng's voice fell into her ears, and Zhou Guang froze. She wiped the water from her face, and her wet clothes stuck to her body. The wind blew a bit cold. What's the matter? Just to remind you, I'm engaged this weekend, you're coming. Zhou Meng just wanted to humiliate her, and Zhou Guang was also very depressed. Is this person sick? Can't we go our separate ways? Do you have to step her into the mud? Zhou Meng, is it interesting for you to do this? Zhou Guang took a deep breath. 3 years ago, you planned Chen Jianwei to go to Zhou's house and drive me out. Zhou Meng, you are a child of Zhou's family. We have changed here and lived our own lives. I don't know why you still entangled. Everyone's life? Time. Zhou Meng's voice cooled down. You haven't experienced the hardships I suffered, have you? You haven't experienced those tortures and sufferings at all, have you? You lived a very good life instead of me. Everyone loves her, likes her, she is generous and respectful, and she walks out with a noble demeanor, just like a young lady. But what are you? The real young lady of the Zhou family lived outside and suffered torture and suffering. When she returned to the Zhou family, there were traces of Zhou's time everywhere. Why is she a counterfeit? Why do you get all that? Hehe, your surname is Chen, don't be ashamed to take the surname of Zhou, you fake. Zhou Guang gritted his teeth, a ball of cotton wool stuck in his chest. What the are you trying to do? You have to cooperate in whatever I want to do. You can only cooperate. You have no other choice. Zhou Meng sneered, are you filming now? Believe it or not, I told you not to go to school and go back to the countryside? Zhou Guang was stunned and gritted his teeth. Zhou Meng, come over to my engagement this weekend. Zhou Meng's laughter came from the phone. If you dare to be disobedient, then don't blame me for being rude. Let everyone see how far the weekly time they used to compare with themselves has fallen to now. Zhou Meng hung up the phone. Zhou Guang almost crushed the phone, shaking all over. Zhou Meng would leave her with nothing. If Zhou Meng hadn't gone abroad, she really wouldn't know which restaurant she would work as a waiter. She didn't want to experience the despair of running into walls when she came out of Zhou's house. Aren't you cold? A voice suddenly sounded behind him, and Zhou Guang looked back abruptly. Cheng Zihan's assistant, he handed over a towel. I'm afraid the rain today won't stop for a while. It was getting dark, and dark clouds were hanging heavily overhead. Change your clothes and go back to the hotel first. Zhou Guang took the towel. Thank you. It was only when I made a sound that I realized that my teeth were chattering and my whole body was shaking.